Broadcasting live from atop the Rocky Mountains, the crossroads of the West. You are listening to the Liberty Roundtable Radio Talk Show.
All right. Happy to have you along, my fellow Americans. Sam Bushman live on your radio. Hard-hitting news the networks refuse to use, no doubt, starts now. This, my fellow Americans, is the broadcast for. It's already April the 3rd in the year of our Lord 2025. This is hour one of two. The goal always to protect life, liberty, and property, to promote God, family, and country. To do so on your radio in the traditions of our founding fathers. Yes, indeed, we use the supreme law of the land, the Constitution for the United States of America, with all of its checks and balances brilliantly put in place by the founding fathers. That's what we use. That's what's at our fingertips to restore the republic, ladies and gentlemen. Most people think, oh, man, our system's failing. The Constitution's at fault. Lie. Wrong answer. Yeah, we're melting down because we're an immoral people. We got to turn back to God and repent. Secondarily, we've got to use the checks and balances brilliantly put in place by the founding fathers. We reject revolution. Unless it's a Jesus revolution, then we're in, because we follow the Prince of Peace, ladies and gentlemen. There's so much going on in this country. There's so much that we could do that's good. We've just got to get involved together. Yesterday with James Edwards, by the way, we had a great conversation about this, and I know I came across very negative, and James came across as kind of the positive guy, where James is like, hey, you know, I still appreciate the good Trump's done. I agree 1,000%. I think Trump's done a lot of good. In fact, he's mostly right on most topics. There's a little fly in the ointment from time to time. I'll get into that as the broadcast unfolds. Is my goal to criticize President Trump? No, my goal is to say, why is Congress slow walking everything Donald Trump does? Why is Congress paralyzed? Why is Mike Johnson leading us astray? Why are we pushing to increase the debt ceiling if we've got so much government savings because of Doge? If we've got so much coming in because of the tariffs changing the game, do we really, ladies and gentlemen, need to just spend the same? Well, that's what they did, and they gave themselves 6 more months. In fact, we're spending more this year than we did at this same time back in 2024. So it's getting worse, not better, folks, even though there's a lot of good things on the horizon. All right, we had our guest on, though, Mr. James Edwards, thepoliticalcesspool.org, award-winning talk radio every Saturday night, live or on demand at thepoliticalcesspool.org. Check it out. Anyway, we talked about Southern California now has the highest sales tax in the nation, 11.25%. Wow. I don't know how you can even survive with that kind of tax. I mean, that's just the sales side of the discussion. That has nothing to do with property tax, income tax. I mean, I could go on and wow. Trump set to announce, they say, biggest tax increase on Americans in decades, writes Yahoo.com. Again, I think those are manipulated headlines for the mainstream press. They're dishonest. Can you say it's an increased tax? I guess you can, because the American people are going to pay for tariffs just like the foreign countries. Everybody's going to pay. That's an increase in taxes, big time. Trump hasn't decreased any taxes for me on anything. In fact, I hear from Doge that I'm funding all these government-backed media organizations. I got to fund them and pay my taxes. So I'm basically paying double, funding my opposition and fund my own business and pay tax. Well, same thing with government school. I've never put a single kid, I've got 8 children, not a single one in government school, ladies and gentlemen. But yet I have to pay my own children's education, and then I have to go ahead and pay the government side of that too. See, they're getting me every way but Sunday. I mean, it's crazy town. Mike Lindell wondering, should I run for the governorship of Minnesota? I think you should, Mike. It'd be great to stop the socialism and the communism and the leadership from Muslims and everybody else over there. I think you should run, Mike, and I pray you win. Trump suggests that Elon Musk may now leave Doge. So let me get this right. Doge was pitched as this big thing between Vivek Ramaswamy and Elon Musk. Big plans, reduce all kinds of expenditures, crank up, take care of business in the private sector, provide recommendations to the White House and to Congress, etc. Plan to take the thing down July, August 2026. Great plan. Now, before it even gets off the ground, Vivek leaves and decides to run for governor of Ohio. By the way, I back him for governor of Ohio, though. I think he's right. I think he'll make a lot of difference there. That's good. But then now we think Elon Musk is leaving. So now Musk leaves literally what? I mean, it's been 72 days, as far as I understand, about for the president. We haven't even hit 90-day mark, and now Elon's already out. Who's going to be running Doge? Is Doge dead? What's going to happen? We don't know. All we hear is just all kinds of confusion, subterfuge. We don't even know what's going on with that. Trump pardons J6ers. People are asking now what? Because they're just going, man, this is just a clown show. These poor people now many of them are homeless. They can't get jobs because of the abuse they've taken. Are we going to go ahead and find the real criminals in J6? Was it really a government op like we've been told? What about Ray Epps and other people that were absolutely influential in making that riot happen? What about the government admitting they had so many provocateurs? What about all the other government agencies that we haven't quizzed down, and how many provocateurs did they have there? And the list goes on and on and on. So I appreciate pardoning the J6 prisoners. Good for Trump for doing so. He gets nothing but credit. But the real answer is, now what? All those clowns that had the hearings on TV, and it was virtually propaganda full of lies. Is there going to be accountability? Oh, no, Joe pardoned them all. Great, Joe pardoned them all. Fine. What about the auto pen? What about the fact that Joe's not competent to do those things? See, are we going to pursue and prosecute? Or is it just the kind of thing where we're like, oh, yeah, we freed them. That's good. That's enough. No, their lives are still in shambles, and they'll never be able to recover. They won't be able to get jobs. And this is disaster. We have got to make a difference. Meanwhile, House Republican leaders canceled votes for the rest of the week. They literally shut down after a band of GOP lawmakers joined the Democrats. Mike Johnson's offended, lost authority and power, and now they shut down for literally a week over a clown show about remote voting, or voting by proxy is what it's called. Okay, and so it's a big old debate. Hey, young parents, can they vote remotely if they're home with their babies? No, can't. Constitution says no. Many people say yes. Johnson melts down, shuts Congress down for a week over it. How are we going to get the Donald Trump's initiatives while we're doing that? It's a disgrace. And then I called the Senate and said, hey, are you guys in session today? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, okay, is the House? Yeah. No, they're not. They're not voting on anything. So I guess you got to debate what in session even means these days, right? Ahead of President Trump's plan to impose, quote, sweeping tariffs across the globe, I guess now Donald Trump's wanting to give aid to farmers. Yeah, the early discussions offer a tacit acknowledgement that Mr. Trump's expansive tariffs could lead to devastation to our farmers. Don't worry, Trump's going to give them a handout. Now it makes you wonder, is the U.S. headed for a recession? I'm going to ask that to Bryan Rust here in just a minute when he comes on. Are we headed for a recession? I pray not, but I just don't see how we're not. Ron Paul, it's happening. Then I write, not. Ron Paul wrote a great article about how we're going to start making a difference. We're going to start doing this and that and that and that in Congress. He said April the 2nd, we're going to be looking at this. And then the whole thing got suspended from this clown show where Luna from Florida is, what, against Mike Johnson, I guess? Is that whose side who? Are you on? See, remember, Mike Johnson's the guy that usually breaks with the Democrats or gets the Democrats to help him carry out his idea. Now that's been turned against him, and now he doesn't know what to do, so he literally shuts down Congress for a week. Where's the leadership? Total failure in leadership. All right, we need to move towards defunding Planned Parenthood. There's been efforts on that front, but not near enough. But as the move to end Planned Parenthood funding is more urgent, Senator Joni Ernst introduces a bill to do just that. I love it. I agree. Rebecca Downs over at townhall.com with that one. When are we going to get that done? Oh, we're not now, Sam. The House is shut down for a week. Folks, they only work literally like 130, 140 days per year. When you literally take off 6 of those days, I mean, you're just wasting time left and right. Plus, they already sold us out and passed the CR, continuing resolution for the, debt, 6 months of increased spending. I know they say it's decreased, but it's a lie. It all depends on how you define decrease and increase, right? Well, it's not as much as it could have been, Sam. I know, but it's more than it was last time. I know, but based on the way we do budgeting here over in government, it's less. All right, that's the bottom line. Anyway, we talked about that in detail, and all I can tell you is, folks, we have got to realize things are not going to go well if we continue down this road. Congress is slow walking Trump's initiatives, and I believe that the deep state's in Congress right now. We need to remind all 435 members of the House, if you don't get this together ASAP, you're done. Why they don't censure Mike Johnson, why they don't impeach Mike Johnson, why don't they challenge Mike Johnson's speakership, I don't know. But I suspect it's because the American people aren't incensed enough. They're not really angry enough to do anything about it is the problem. All right, hang tight. Sam Bushman, Bryan Rust joins me in seconds for the Honest Money Report. You're listening to Liberty Roundtable Live.
Attention collectors and savvy investors. We are excited to announce a momentous evolution in our journey. Introducing Free Water Coin Company, formerly known as Rust Coin and Gift. This rebranding takes us back to the very roots of where it all began. Free Water, Oregon. It's a tribute to the legacy of Al Rust and a celebration of 3 generations of dedication to excellence in the world of coins and precious gifts. Al, Bryan, and Jake Rust standing strong through 64 years of service. Discover a world of exceptional service at Free Water Coin Company, your premier destination for genuine, honest money and precious gifts. Under Bryan's expert guidance, Free Water Coin Company, building on the legacy of Rust Coin and Gift, continues its tradition of trust and excellence. Visit us at our Provo, Utah location. Explore our treasures online at freewatercoinco.com or call us at 801-377-1574. Free Water Coin Company, where your future is built one honest coin at a time.
Former Sheriff Richard Mack recounts in his book The Proper Role of Law Enforcement, how he came to realize while working as a beat cop how wrong the all-too-common orientation of police officers is when they think of their job as being to write tickets and arrest people. Richard Mack tells of his personal transformation from by-the-number cop to Constitution-conscious defender of citizen safety and freedoms. Learn what it really means to serve and protect. Purchase your copy at cspoa.org. That's cspoa.org.
Do you know what is great about America? Ask an Immigrant. Ask an Immigrant is a new podcast dedicated to helping Americans, especially our youth, value, appreciate, and be grateful for the freedoms we have here in America. Join host Lydia Wallace-Nuttall as she interviews immigrants from around the world to discover their inspiring personal stories about why they came to America. To learn more about why America is the most prosperous, greatest country in the world, download the Loving Liberty app or go to lovingliberty.net.
All right, back with you live, ladies and gentlemen. Bryan Rust with me. Over the past 50 years, the Rust family has been working to educate customers about precious metals. You know, what do you buy? When do you buy it? Why do you buy what you do? What's the deal? You know, do you want numismatic? Do you want to make a bunch of money on a coin? Is it an investment to you? Is it you just want constitutional currency as a hedge? What do you want? What are your goals? Well, you've got the Rust family to help you navigate that landmine. It's a landmine if you got dishonest people involved. But if you've got a friend in the honest money business, then it's not a landmine anymore. It becomes an opportunity for stability and wealth. freewatercoinco.com. Bryan Rust, welcome back, sir.
Thank you much, Sam. Glad to be with you here. Hope things are well for you.
They're doing great. Where's gold today?
Gold is sitting at 3,034. Well, let's see. No, that's not it. That was last week. Sorry. 3,093.60.
3,093.60. Is that a high?
We pushed over 31 at one point.
Okay, so it's not quite a high, but it's up there, though. 3,093.60. What about silver?
32.16.
32.16, and I guess that's down a little bit from last time, right?
Well, let's see. Last week we were at 33.74.
Yeah, so it's down a teeny bit.
It's down.
What's interesting to me? Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. We're looking at a 96-to-1 ratio right now.
Whoa, people, that's what's the highest ratio that it's ever been? Do you know that?
I think we got over 100.
All right, so that's a flash in the pan over 100, but 96 is unprecedented. What it really means is silver has room to run, huh?
It does. We're seeing the cause and effects of just everything that's happening. I mean, there's some hope, some things are happening. I think American people are happy, but realistically, they're, money's tighter because of costs and all this that's happening. And so, bottom line is yeah, we're, people are a little bit nervous. So spending isn't quite there. And yeah, you mentioned, I think, and we'll get into that, the recession, but yeah, I think we're on that floor, no doubt about it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, there's so much to talk about. The first thing I want to bring up to Bryan Rust with relation to all this. I know everybody wants to talk about tariffs. We'll get there, but the first thing I want to mention is this. I don't know if you know this, but Congress was supposed to rock and roll, according to Ron Paul, and talk about the shutting down the move to digital currency in the United States. And he said, hey, we got great news on April the 2nd. We're going to be working on this. That was yesterday. And we've got this bill, and it's looking good. Everybody's excited about it. This is our chance. This is our opportunity. And then Mike Johnson got in a big old fight with Luna, Congresswoman Luna from Florida. And I guess a bunch of Democrats stuck with Luna, shut down Mike Johnson. Mike Johnson got all mad, literally shut down the House for a week. They won't even start voting until next Monday again. And the problem is, at first glance, you think, oh, it's over this sideshow. And that's what I thought yesterday. But now that I've had time to kind of ponder this in the Sam Bushman think tank, if you will, I kind of realized, you know what, I don't think it had anything to do with that other clown sideshow. I think that was the way Mike Johnson could shut that down and not push that to the discussion in the media and the discussion in the votes. Okay? While we're talking honest money, Mike Johnson's doing his best to obliterate the stoppage of the Digital Currency Act kind of stuff. So federal money may run out by late May, forecast says. So they voted to fund the government for 6 months, Brian. That's, September, October discussion. But the problem is they voted to spend money that they don't legally have. So the debt ceiling is going to hit, and unless they increase that, they're stuck. That's supposed to happen. Money may run out by the end of May. And what's interesting to me is they can't even really tell you when the money's going to run out, right? Because it's so convoluted, so dishonest, so manipulated, so complex that they can't even really tell you when they're going to run out. They're like, it may run out towards the end of May. What does that even mean? Anyway, they're playing games with all of us, and I think that this shutdown of Congress was Mike Johnson saying, I need time. I can't just have everybody voting on the floor. I've got to have time behind the scenes to twist arms and to tweak people's careers and to remind people that they're compromised and, you've been you've been shanghaied or whatever you want to call it. You've been, what's the word for that? When you're held over a barrel on something, what's it called?
Hostage?
Yeah, you're held hostage, but the word for that, blackmailed, I guess is the word.
Oh, right.
You've been blackmailed. Okay, and I don't know what's going on here, but it isn't about Luna wanting to, let moms who are in the house vote from home. That's not the discussion, really. I mean, I know that's what shut down government, but I believe there are a lot of bigger discussions happening right now than that. Brian, do you want to speak to that?
Well, it's kind of a big joke in a sense, and I think most common sense people can kind of see the joke because how often have they kind of said, or do we get to the point of, well, we're going to shut down government because here's the big threat if we shut down government, and they paint this bad picture, but realistically, they've been overspending for years. We're in such dire straits based on our money situation that we're already bankrupt, in my opinion, because that overspending, you just can't all of a sudden turn the switch the other way and say, oh, now we're fine. We'll just turn it the other way and we're just going to be fine. No, it doesn't work that way. And so, and all their agendas, their secret combinations, let's say, or agenda that they need their money to take care of, all these things that we're looking at. And gosh, we're giving billions to here, and that person got $1 billion. And so it's a joke. And so my opinion is shut down the government and let's just let's start and get in there and work together to see what solutions, if we can even come out of this, because that's the biggest factor, I think.
I think you're right as rain. So my next headline is, if federal money may run out by late May, if Mike Johnson and clowns basically said, hey, forget the Doge cuts, let's just spend normal, and we'll worry about that later. That's what he said, and then they passed the big, beautiful spending bill. Now the question becomes, is the U.S. heading for a recession? And I think the answer is a clear yes. I don't see how they can avoid this. You haven't reduced any taxes on the American people, and we'll get to this here in a minute, but they're talking about Liberation Day. And a buddy of mine wrote me yesterday and said, Sam, aren't you excited? Liberation Day. And I wrote back and said, as long as the IRS is hanging over my head and I have to go ahead and spend all my time for the next 2 weeks before, the 15th, filing all my taxes, don't be telling me Liberation Day. I'm a slave. And so we're running around talking Liberation Day because we're going to charge tariffs. That's just another tax. I like tariffs because they're indirect. I like tariffs because I think that's the proper way to fund government. I love indirect taxes more than direct taxes. But let's face it, it's a tax. And all Donald's done is increase taxes, right, Ryan?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it is a tax. They just can't get a handle on this. And I think, going the way as normal, this is the normal way we've been going. As long as we keep going that way, yeah, we're doomed. And we can see we're doomed. And so, I think he's obviously, I think with DOGE and all the things that they're trying to accomplish is bringing back some of this money and going after those who owe the money and getting it back. I mean, I think that's one factor. And starting to make America great is by stopping the bleeding, because there's so much bleeding out there, and they've exposed so much bleeding that that's one factor. Sorry, I digress. I'm bouncing another. But how do people just with common sense think, oh, it's okay to give that person $20 million or $20 billion who is doing nothing, or Clinton's daughter, oh, let's give her some, and let's do this and let's do that. I mean, who in their right mind really believes what the left is saying, that, oh, Doge is killing it, when in fact we're exposing this stuff? We can't just sit there and say, oh, that was okay, that's okay, but yet they want more taxes from me to help pay some of that. It doesn't work. And so we're in a recession. We're right there, and I'm not sure how we're going to come out of it. If we're a negative 2.8% GDP, worst since the lockdown in 2020, you can just see the cycles. Where are people spending? Are they saving? What's going on? How come metals? More people are diving into metals because they can see the writing on the wall. So countries are buying up major. China, let's say just China, 5 times more gold than reported. I mean, why would they be doing this kind of stuff if we're just so, things are great here in Zion? It's not great. So I don't know.
Well, let me throw out this idea for you. The problem is that most people are involved into partisan politics, and so they believe the world is right versus left, red state versus blue state. And I submit to you this false divide is the problem. So let me give you an example. The Trump lovers, the always Trumpers, are saying, yeah, stick it to the rest of the world. Crank up tariffs. It's only justified. We're getting beat big time. And they're right on every point. And they're right that we need these tariffs to level the playing field internationally. And Trump's right that we've been beat up for literally decades over this, big time. All that's factual and right. The Democrats say the end of the world is going to happen if you shut down things based on Doge and you crank up the tariffs. It's basically financial Armageddon going on. Well, they're not right, but they do have elements of truth. So it takes somebody like me, folks, that's not a Republican or a Democrat. I don't believe in the left-right divide. So I say, hey, the Trumpers are right. These tariffs need to happen. But if we're not very careful, we're going to spill into a recession. Maybe not financial Armageddon, but a recession. And when you increase all these taxes and tariffs, unless you decrease the burden on the backs of the American people, I think the Democrats have a point in this fight that's worthy of discussion. No wonder people are switching sides left and right and people are confused, huh? Bryan Rust and I will break it down as we continue in seconds. Bryan Rust, freewatercoinco.com on your radio.
Protecting your liberties. You're listening to Liberty News Radio.
Breaking news this hour from townhall.com. I'm Rich Thomason. A huge Wall Street sell-off underway this morning. That story in a moment. But first, powerful overnight storms, including tornadoes, slamming parts of the South and the Midwest. At least 3 people have been killed, hundreds of thousands without power. From Mississippi north to Michigan, many homes and businesses damaged or destroyed. And forecasters say more nasty weather could be on the way.
The hardest hit area is going to be across portions of Arkansas, western Tennessee, western Kentucky, southeast Missouri, and then the surrounding area around that's still going to be hard hit too. But kind of that core I just mentioned is really where the highest rainfall amounts and highest impacts are currently expected.
Mark Chenard at the National Weather Service. President Trump says it's time to put a stop to this.
Our country and its taxpayers have been ripped off for more than 50 years.
The president's imposing reciprocal tariffs on America's trading partners, those tariffs ranging anywhere from 10 to 49%. The higher U.S. tariffs still generally far less than those imposed by other countries on American goods. The BBC's Katja Adler has overseas reaction.
The European Commission think a global trade war is in nobody's interest, but they think they need to stand firm. The Commission has prepared a range of possible retaliatory measures, but in the meantime, a lot of concern in the countries who are likely to be most hit. Think about Germany, 25% tariffs on cars, and France, the winemakers, the champagne makers. Both of those industries in Germany and in France look to the US for 20% of their income. So, they expect to be hit hard by this.
And Wall Street is plunging this morning. The financial markets worldwide in a tizzy over the tariffs. Right now, the Dow is down 1,275 points, a loss of more than 3%. The Nasdaq off 774. More on these stories, townhall.com.
Financing a home, especially in today's market, is one of the biggest decisions you'll make for your family. Work with a mortgage company that puts you first. I do. Work with a lender founded on biblical principles like do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. I do. It's Mike Gallagher for the only mortgage company I've used for almost a decade now when financing or refinancing Fellowship Home Loans. I'm friends with the owners, Mike and Bryan. I even have them on my show occasionally. I know the care their team puts into every single customer. I can personally tell you that it's a smooth, stress-free process, and that's due to Fellowship's level of service and expertise that puts you in the right loan for your family and your goals. There's a reason Fellowship Home Loans is flooded with 5-star reviews. Whether purchasing a home or a cash-out refi to consolidate some higher interest debt, you can trust Fellowship Home Loans. Start the process. Make the call. 800-510-MIKE, 800-510-MIKE, 800-510-6453. Fellowship Home Loans, mortgage lending by the book.
Nationwide Mortgage Bankers, Equal Housing Lender, NMLS number 819382.
In the medical field, IT security is crucial. Our highly skilled consultants are HIPAA certified and have 20-plus years of experience servicing medical clinics, billing, and supply companies. We offer comprehensive endpoint protection, guarding your computers and servers against all stages of threats. And with our 24/7 monitoring services, you'll never worry about extensive downtime again. Ready to level up your IT support? Call 801-706-6980 today and discover how great IT services can be with managed IT services.
Step into the boots of the American West with Range Magazine, where grit meets grace. This is a front row seat to the stories, struggles, and triumphs of ranchers, farmers, and stewards of the land. From jaw-dropping photography to no-nonsense reporting, Range brings you the untold tales of life on the range. Whether you're a city dweller with a cowboy's heart or living life where the pavement ends, Range speaks to the soul of the West. Subscribe today at rangemagazine.com.
You know where the solution can be found, Mr. President? In churches, in wedding chapels, in maternity wards across the country and around the world. More babies will mean forward-looking adults, the sort we need to tackle long-term, large-scale problems. American babies in particular are likely going to be wealthier, better educated, and more conservation-minded than children raised in still industrializing countries. As economist Tyler Cowen recently wrote, quote, "By having more children, you're making your nation more populous, thus boosting its capacity to solve climate change. The planet does not need for us to think globally and act locally so much as it needs us to think family and act personally. The solution to so many of our problems, at all times and in all places, is to fall in love, get married, and have some kids."
Broadcasting live from atop the Rocky Mountains, the crossroads of the West. You are listening to the Liberty Roundtable Radio Talk Show.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, Bryan Rust with me, Honest Money Report. FreeWaterQuenco.com to learn more, to get involved. You got a friend in the honest money business. So I'm saying that, you know what, the Trumpers are right. There's a lot to like about the tariffs. There's a lot to the reality that we're getting ripped off internationally. They've called it free trade forever, and it's been stealing money for the American people big time. I mean, Trump's right on every point he's making. Where I think he's missing the boat, though, is unless you start to provide serious relief to the American people, it's just a one-sided tax increase for everybody in the world is what it is. Anybody that wants to do business with the United States, taxed. It's going to be less business with the United States. Any of us that want to buy anything, hey, if you want to buy a car, you got a 25% tax. They say it's like $3,000 to $6,000 will be added to each car based on how much of it's made in America. There's all these complicated rules. So the Democrats are right that, they point to a financial Armageddon. I think they're overstating their point. But you know what? A recession might be a reality. The other thing that might be a reality is the moral hazard that's created when somebody continues to keep changing the goalposts. All right? I mean, it reminds me of Lucy and the football, to make it very simple. And what you've got is Trump's got this tax today and this tariff tomorrow. And, we're going to delay this. And, we're going to diminish, this. And we're going to do that. And we're going to, and every time when it changes, it just creates uncertainty in the marketplace. Now, personally, I think Trump's right on what he's doing. I think he's wrong in the way he's going about it, in my opinion. All right? Trump said other countries are accused of unfair trade practices, saying the country has been looted, pillaged, raped, plundered. In many cases, the friend is worse than the foe when it comes to trade. He's right. But here's the problem. Why do we have to go so hog in so quickly to where nobody can retaliate? Nobody can respond. Nobody can let the market acclimate. Nobody can adjust to the, quote, changes. Is it a leveling playing field, or have we sloped it too much this way or that way? So I would roll out the tariffs that Trump's speaking about. But what I would do is educate the American people along the way. Trump put up a bunch of charts, almost like a Ross Perot chart of yesteryear. And he's showing how, hey, we're not charging near as much tariffs as these other countries are, and we're getting ripped off. And he's right, 100%. But I would go into it not like a bull into a china shop. I would go into it slowly. And I would say, here's our worst, top five trade offenders. They've got abusive tariffs on us. We don't on them. Now we're going to start to, put those tariffs in place if they don't sit down with us one at a time. They can decrease their tariffs. We'll increase their tariffs. Where do we want to land, people? Country A, China? Where do you want to land? You've been in business for a long time. It's going to stop. We're going to sit down and equalize this. Do you want to sit down and talk about it and you can go down and we'll go up so that we can, or do you just want us to slap a reciprocal tariffs on you? Now, what Trump would say is they're kind tariffs. They're not hardcore tariffs. They're kind. And the reason they're kind tariffs is because he's only going to 50% of what they're charging us. So they're partial reciprocal tariffs is what they are. Well, I appreciate that, but if you do it so across the board, so holistically, it's very hard to deal with the changing economic markers and know where you're at on this stuff. So I would roll it out a lot slower. I'd give nations a chance to come to the table and work on this together. And I would roll it out slowly so that I could handle the economic reality. Meanwhile, I'd spend my time on decreasing our spend. Okay, we didn't decrease our spend at all Christmas time 24, just a couple months ago. And we didn't reduce our spend just a couple of weeks ago when they passed this omnibus huge continuing resolution spending bill. We did none of it. And now they say, hey, you know what? Vivek left Doge. Now Elon's going to be leaving Doge. So I don't even know how much we'll end up in savings at all. Now they're hoping Congress gets together and works on continuing the tax cuts that were temporary, that should have been made permanent in the first place. But you look at this thing, and I think why don't we work on the spending, decrease spending, work on accountability and transparency, give Americans a tax break, slowly back into these tariffs, and see how many people, how many countries actually come to the table and say, okay, you're right, this is worth negotiating. Now, maybe President Trump's done some of that. Maybe these half reciprocal tariffs is an attempt towards that. But I really don't see it. I agree these countries are guilty of these trade practices. But the headline says this: Trump unleashes Liberation Day. Tariffs reciprocal. Tariffs are higher than many people expected. And then it goes on. It includes a 34% tax on imports from China, 32% imports from Taiwan. Wow. See, to me, the intent of the founding fathers was the more you play in the free market, the more we want to reduce tariffs on you because why is Taiwan almost the same as China? I mean, I don't even get, anyway. 25% on imports from South Korea, 24% imports on Japan, 20% imports from the European Union. The rate from imports from the UK would be 10%. I guess that's because they broke away from the European Union. And you look at this and you just go, man, Donald Trump declared a national emergency on Wednesday to impose these tariffs in what the White House is calling Liberation Day. I don't know how we can declare an emergency and the same day call it Liberation Day. This is kind of what I mean. We're going so far into the abyss on this thing. Trump's right on some of the points, but we can't let the pendulum swing so hard, so fast, because how do we deal with the back end repercussions? The American people are going to be suffering in the middle of this thing. And I don't mean to act like the Democrats on this thing. I just think there's a reality to both sides, and each side has their agenda as they sling rocks at the other side. And then at the end of the day, what happens? I don't even know where we the people stand. Do you, Brian?
Well, Sam, you said it well. You brought it forth. I think one of the problems that Trump has is time. You know, we talk of time, what can be done, and I think he's trying to accomplish a lot. And so I think behind the scenes, they're all saying, well, you don't have much time, because if you don't get some of this stuff done quickly, before you know it, you're no longer in office, and everything's going back to the same norm that has been there before. Because they just because you did it, they're going to want to change it, as we've seen in the past. And so I think that's one of the things that he's fighting, is the fact of everybody's coming at him and saying, we've got to do this, we've got to do that, we've got to do, and he's trying to take it all in, and also in the face of time, because I don't think he has, realistically, we're already at this point right here, and it just seems that time just races away. And so at that point, I think that's kind of where he's at. But I agree, things need to be done. I just don't know if he understands the fact of, well, if we sit down and talk and discuss it, maybe kind of go at a slower pace, I'm out next week and everything goes back to as is. And so, I think that might be one of the bigger factors that he's facing.
I agree, and I don't really think we need to go to a slower pace necessarily. I think we need to go fast. What I think we need to do is prioritize, though. And I just take one simple example. Take tariffs on cars, 25%. Now, unless you decrease my taxes somewhere, anytime I need to buy a new car, or anytime a fleet of cars for a rental company or a business or a corporation or a church or any large enterprise organization buys cars, it's going to be much more expensive. In other words, that's a huge tax. How many cars do we bring into the United States, or how many cars are sold in the United States annually? I'd have to look it up, but here's what I'm saying. $3,000 to $6,000 on every one of those. How many ever in a year? Just take 1 year as a snapshot. You're talking big money. That's an increased tax. Unless you offset it somewhere, you've just raised taxes on the American people. Don't tell me it's Liberation Day, because it's not.
Yeah.
Right? Isn't that the truth? I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a Republican. You just cannot raise that tax and act like it doesn't exist, or act like it's liberation.
Well, and that's the issue, Sam. I think that's happening. So these taxes are hitting the American people. I mean, part of this question about recession we talk about is if we look at this kind of and go back a little bit. I was reading an article by this Jesse Colombo, and he's talking about we're hurling towards a recession, because you look at kind of obviously the Fed through the interest rates and the hikes and so on, but he goes back to what he calls the everything bubble, and in that terms, we have the housing bubble or equities bubble, the tech startups, the AI bubble, the cryptocurrency space bubble, the healthcare bubble, higher education, auto loans. He goes into all these things, and make no mistake, if those companies are are bringing in these, and there's more tax and more or on these there tariffs and so on there. Well, the American people are already under a bubble, and so at that point, there is no more money to buy these things, so they're not buying these things, so they sit stagnant on a lot. Let's say automobiles, or I can't afford. What do I choose? Do I pay my health insurance, or do I buy food for my kids? I mean, so they're wrestling with that, and the big boys don't care. They don't need that. They have the money. They're buying whatever they want, and so it hurts the American people, and we're seeing it. We're already
all right. They say about 15 million new cars are sold every year in the United States. I got to do some calculations. Hang tight, everybody.
This is a battle between truth and deceit, a battle between forces that would enslave this country in darkness, and between a media that wants to present you with the truth. We are being censored. America's news outlets no longer provide the truth. 90% of news outlets in the United States are controlled by 6 corporations. The mission of the Epoch Times is to chase the truth, to ground all statements in fact.
TheEpochTimes.com.
Looking for an IT partner that truly understands your needs? Managed IT Services is the answer. We meet with you regularly to discuss your goals and form a tailored technology plan. Our customers have called us a trusted advisor who delivers. When it comes to IT, we do it all. Firewalls, cloud storage, server migration, and more. Say goodbye to long-term contracts and hello to a team that earns your business month after month. Call 801-706-6980 now and let Managed IT Services transform your IT experience.
The Foundation for Moral Law is a nonprofit legal foundation committed to protecting our unalienable right to publicly acknowledge God. The Foundation for Moral Law exists to restore the knowledge of God in law and government, and to acknowledge and defend the truth that man is endowed with rights not by our fellow man, but by God. The foundation maintains a twofold focus. First, litigation within state and federal courts. Second, education, conducting seminars to teach the necessity and importance of acknowledging God in law and government. How can you help? Please make a tax-deductible contribution, allowing foundation attorneys to continue the fight. You may also purchase various foundation products as well at morallaw.org. Located in Montgomery, Alabama, the Foundation for Moral Law is a nonprofit, tax-exempt 501c3 founded by Judge Roy Moore. Please partner with us to achieve this important mission. morallaw.org.
All right, back with you live, ladies and gentlemen. If I take $3,000 per car and it's 15 million cars a year, it's $45 billion. And so, you can say 45 billion is nothing, Sam. And I mean, I guess you're right if we're talking trillions. I get it. The problem with these discussions is I don't even know how to deal with these kind of numbers. They're so big, they're beyond kind of even comprehension or understanding. But I look at this and I go, okay, so unless you're going to decrease taxes somewhere else, you're getting $45 billion more dollars. Now you can say, well, that makes it, more of a level playing field. I don't disagree with any of that. Except for I don't make my living in that arena at all. I make my living in the media, right? And as an IT consultant. And so for me, it's just a $3,000 increase whenever I buy a car. Or a trickle-down sum or number based on used cars. In other words, if I buy a used car because I'm not going to pay the tariffs to bring in a new car, used car costs are going to go up too, because a lot of people who, well, now that a new car's 25% more, hey, I can't do a new car anymore. I got to buy a used one. So it's going to have pressure on all vehicles. All boats rise. Taxes rise for me. Am I being too simplistic, Brian? But look, when it comes to the family, isn't it like that?
It's exactly like that. And when we show the example as a car. With the car, it's the same thing with a house. Where I could have bought a house for this and this at this point, now I have to buy somebody else's house. I can't buy a new house. I have to buy somebody else's house because it's cheaper and I can get in, and maybe I have to do some work on the house. But it's the same kind of scenario. And so, and that's one of the factors this Jesse Colombo mentioned, is the fact of these bubbles. And he feels that this housing bubble is the next collapse, major trigger for coming recession. He basically, if you look at the numbers, he brought up the yield curve based recession indicator is the New York Fed recession probability model. And he goes kind of through this model. And he says over the these indicators and the downturn swings is suggesting the U.S. economy is unfortunately already in a recession. So that's that model going forward. And he mentioned housing and various things, but also cars, automobiles, and everything else. Eggs. What are eggs right now? And, we had the bird flu and all the other things and wiped out chickens, I guess, or so on. But all these things are hitting. Some people are not even using eggs anymore, they say. Well, eggs go into a lot of things. But I regress. But anyway, you're right on in this factor.
What is the average cost of a Big Mac, ladies and gentlemen? Right? And the reason I asked that is because I was traveling the other day, and I went to Las Vegas, and I was on the Strip. So maybe it was partially Strip or the Strip pricing. But it was literally like almost when I got taxes and everything else, it was like $6.40 for a quarter pounder with cheese. And you go, whoa.
What?
How much is a Big Mac, folks? How much is a Big Mac when you were a kid, Brian?
Well, I think 99 cents or something, wasn't it?
Right. Yeah. Or a lot of times a quarter pounder with cheese that have one for $1.99, and then you can get the other one for a quarter. So
right.
for $2 and a quarter, so $1, whatever it is, 12 each, you would literally have 2 quarter pounders with cheese. No longer anymore.
No. Well, that's
anyway.
it. I think that that's why I say my quarter still gets me a gallon of gas. Same old story. Your quarter in the till won't get you a Coke. My quarter will buy me a gallon of gas. See, well, that's the difference.
How much do you think the average? Let me see what this is called. A Big Mac meal. How much do you think the average Big Mac meal is?
Oh, what is it? Is it $8.99 or $10? I don't know.
$18, my friend.
Oh, 18! I wasn't even close.
Yeah, man. You're living in the old days, my friend.
Yeah. Sorry.
You're like my dad. You think you can get a big old burger and fries and a Coke for a quarter, don't you? That's $18 now, my friend. It used to cost a quarter when my dad was a kid, World War II times.
Well, does that you're getting the tray? Maybe the tray you have to pay for a tray fee
It's probably that little prize you get in your kiddie meal, Brian.
Yeah,
those things are going up, man. Because we just put a big old tariff on China, so them little toys you get, them are expensive, buddy. Now, believe it or not, there's a McDonald's map that people are putting up, and it shows cheapest Big Macs by state. They say a map updated in real time for the Big Mac, buddy. See, this is really Economic Indicator 101, Brian.
Oh. Well, Matt,
what do you think about that?
Well, is it where if you're raising beef, it's cheaper there than if you have to bring the cows over? Is that?
I'm guessing. I don't even know. There's just weird stuff. But I look at it, and it's so expensive that it's hard for me to really even deal with it. $18?
Yeah, I know.
And they even have this thing that says, what a McDonald's Big Mac cost the year you were born, buddy. We can look up the year you were born, and we can see how much a Big Mac cost then, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Isn't that awesome?
Yeah. I wonder one factor. I mean, I look at, you look at maybe generational. I mean, are these younger generations, they don't tend to eat in anymore. I remember growing up myself. I mean, we had breakfast at home and maybe take a lunch to school and you'd come home and eat dinner together and mom cooks and I guess traditional type things, I guess I mentioned. But nowadays, is it your cost now, these companies raise their costs and can raise their costs because people are just, they don't eat at home anymore. So they're all out spending and eating outside. So they kind of raise those costs because they can type factor. I don't know if that is that somewhat of what we're seeing?
Yeah.
Generation?
For sure. And people are starting to say, why should I go to fast food when I can eat good food?
Yeah.
Right?
But these kids, do they not know how to cook? Do they not, I don't know. Maybe they're forced to buy out, I guess.
Anyway, I just find it interesting what a McDonald's Big Mac costs the year you were born, ladies and gentlemen. You can do that. And I bring that up because it's a simple way to understand the economy. Okay, I don't know if you know, but the Big Mac was introduced in 1968. Did you know that, Brian?
Sorry again?
The Big Mac was introduced in 1968.
Oh, 68. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they got a famous index based on the Big Mac. Our buddy Kelly used to tell us about this. They call it the Big Mac Index, also considered Burgonomics. Okay, so if you want to know a new term, it's Burgonomics, like a burger. Burgonomics, Brian.
Oh, I'll write that down. Burgonomics. I do remember. I do remember the little commercial they used to throw on there, the 2 all beef special sauce, lettuce, cheese, onions, pickles on a sesame seed bun. Wasn't that the little saying they used to throw out on the commercial?
Yeah. All right. When McDonald's opened in 1953, it wasn't until 1968 they launched the Big Mac. Okay. And the burger cost 45 cents when it came out. 45 cents for a Big Mac, Brian, when it first came out.
Oh, okay.
What do you think of that? 45 cents.
Yeah, that's right. Well, yeah, 45 cents of real money.
And then when I just went and got one, it was basically $6.50. So just say 50 cents and $6.50. What's that? 13 times?
Yeah.
You know, and then I bring up constitutional currency, and people are like, oh, man, that gold and silver doesn't really hold its value very good. You got to move into stocks and bonds and such, Sam. You got to, come on, you know.
More paper.
And I'm just saying, how do we put the government on the Dave Ramsey diet, Brian? That's what I'm wondering.
Yeah, that's right.
Just have the government just follow Dave Ramsey. Pretty soon they'll be like, hey, you got to get out of debt. You got to make hard choices there, people, you know, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, that's a good question. I don't know how you do it, but it's maybe weeding out. There should be a weeding out process of bad ideas and bad politics and destroying our country. That should be the policy. Make America great again, Sam.
Well, and that's exactly what I want to do, and that's why I know people will be mad at me for criticizing some of this. But I don't mean to be critical. What I really mean to do is bring kind of reality to this discussion. Okay, I don't really want to hear about Liberation Day when my taxes haven't decreased any. In fact, my taxes have gone up from a McDonald's hamburger to a car. My kids can't buy a house. The interest rates are out of control, and the price of a house is out of. Look, you can't get a decent house for under $400,000 hardly now.
Yeah.
Well, with the interest rates, how can people pay that? Their house payments are like $2,500 a month and stuff, Brian.
Well, that's why you look at the numbers on this housing bubble, housing 101. Now we're on housing bubble 2.0 is the next one they're talking about. So I get it. Anyway,
I just really find it fascinating. In the 70s, Big Macs went up to 65 cents, Brian. They were crazy back then. From 45 to 65 cents, man.
That's right. That was a big jump. Well, it seems like
we went off the gold standard then, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, 70s. Burgonomics means that people must be eating a lot of Big Macs because that's what they like or need to get. But that whole meal at $18 is crazy.
Even in New York, in 1974, the Big Mac cost 85 cents. So, there you go. We all remember it kind of 99 cents, but man, we're late to the game, people. Just saying.
There you go.
All right. Anyway, fascinating stuff. I support the tariffs, people, but unless you decrease taxes on the other side of the coin to the American people, Donald Trump is going to be guilty of the greatest tax increases in history if we're not very careful. You got to decrease taxes elsewhere, folks. Shut down the IRS. Thank you, Brian.
Hey, you bet, Sam. Great job.
Bryan Rust, ladies and gentlemen, freewatercoinco.com. You've got a friend in the honest money business doing a phenomenal job. Anyway, let Brian know what you're looking for. He can take care of business for you and create a hedge or growth opportunities in precious metals. Hang tight. God save our republic.